Alright, alright.
Welcome to the Migrant Resource Centre, Northwest Region Incorporated Diversity and Disability YouTube channel. Your Life, Your Voice program, where self-advocates and professionals in the disability sector are interviewed. The Diversity and Disability Project would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we work and live and recognise their continued connection to land, water and community. We pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Nothing about us without us. We pay respects to all self-advocates who have worked hard over the years and are still working tirelessly for their rights, supporting others with disabilities and human rights for all. This channel is for people with disabilities who aspire to seek self-advocacy role models to inspire change in their everyday lives. Nothing about us without us. Choice and control are central themes. Every interview is as unique as you and I. And it has our fundamental universal human rights ethos of respect for persons with disabilities, having their views heard and acknowledged. After all, it's all in the name. Your life, your voice. Be the voice of change in your life. Good morning and welcome to another edition of Your Life, Your Voice. My name is Julie Skiveris. I'd like to welcome my co-host, Larissa McFarlane. Hey Larissa, how you doing?
Hi Julie, I am a bit worse for wear with my long COVID at the moment, but it is good to be here as always.
Sorry to hear, Larissa. And today we'd like to welcome our guest speaker, Billy Parsons, artist, and I've been given permission to call her the resident rat bag. But we are all rat bags. We all identify as rat bags. So welcome Billy. How you doing?
Good, thank you very much.
Cool. So how about we start off with some questions? Billy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you like to be identified?
Okay, so my background is much varied, but it works out, I guess, from I worked in theatre and film for nearly 20 years as a scenery builder and technician, and then jumped on the accident. That wasn't much fun, and I did try going back to work, but my injuries were, I guess my disabilities were too difficult to overcome doing the same work I'd done beforehand. So I followed my nose basically for a little while and ended up on the south coast of New South Wales and planted myself there for nearly 20 years and studied overseas and have come back to Australia, and I thought Melbourne is my original hometown. It's the best place for me to do this, which is set up the type of workshop that would suit me, and so far so good.
Cool.
Yeah. Go on, Larissa.
So we're just going to dig down into that little nutshell that you gave us. Can you tell us a little bit more, if you feel comfortable, about your impairments or your disability and some of those barriers in society that you've faced? So maybe start with how long ago?
My accident was in 2001, so coming up to 22 years next month. Impairments, well, I have a brain injury from the accident. I was a pedestrian hit by a car, From that, I had a stroke as well. So, and various other sensory changes because of the brain injury. And that is a never-ending surprise. Surprise, you can't feel hot or cold water on that side of your body. Surprise, I'm constantly surprised. Things come up and I'm like, didn't have that before. That's not something normal people or people without disability have. But it's been quite a learning curve. Yeah, managing that alongside of everything else.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Yeah. I sometimes like to say, as someone with a brain injury, I've done a PhD in brain injury, because all those years you spend trying to learn about how it is affecting you. And then, of course, everything changes as well. So, yeah, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, that's right. You hit 50 and you go, oh, hang on a sec. I thought it was all good. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I also have API. Now, like, I know it's sort of a follow-up question, and I think you've both answered it. Do you find with age and time other things happen, like that could be related to the API, or maybe it's the natural aging process?
I don't know what a natural aging process is, because I think everyone's different. Like, we have similar things, but our experience is our own. It's individual. And I try and think through things first. When something comes up, like my teeth started to ache, really strange thing, teeth aching. And I'm like, what is that about? And I sort of found ways to deal with it. And essentially I was told that, it's got to do with the brain injury. It just, and see, that only happened a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, that started to happen. Never had that before. And I don't have it now. So it's just like my brain's going, oh, I know how I'm going to get you today. I'm going to do this. And you're not going to know what's going on. So you've got to know.
So do you see your brain injury as like a foe or a friend on this journey through life?
I think it's just been told, it's been put in its place. I think that's
it's like a child, maybe.
Yeah, like it is. And then now and then it sort of throws something out there, and like the teeth thing, and I'm like, wow, okay. All right, you got me. You snuck in and got me while I wasn't looking. Yeah, I guess that's the way I deal with it. It's like, okay, work out how to cope with it, whatever that issue may be, and yeah, because I've got things to do, so I can't dwell on them, otherwise they just become overawed by it all. Yeah.
I just the resilience of the disability community, that we learn to move on, to like pick ourselves up and deal with the issue and move on, and that's something that able-bodied people can learn from us. Yeah.
Yep.
So speaking about people and other disabled people, at what point did you connect to the disability community, and at what point did you start identifying as having a disability and then maybe being disabled? Because I know that's the language you use now.
I think my initial process when I was in hospital and towards getting out of hospital and doing rehab, at that stage, you're not thinking about I've got a disability. You're thinking about how good can I get what I had. And I think it takes a long time for me, it's taken a long time to understand that, like, it isn't just a stroke, it's a disability. It isn't just a brain injury, it's a disability. So I am very fortunate and very unfortunate in different yet the same ways, where I appear like there's nothing wrong with me. When I say to people, for whatever reason, it comes up, because of my disabilities, they're like, nah, you're all right. That's what they say. You're all right. I'm like, what a strange statement, you know? But the other end of that is that the grace that you're shown by other people when they know that you have issues or, you know, have disabilities that sometimes control your actions, is that it really annoys them, and they need to, and they can't cope with the fact that you look fine, but there's something not in QR about what's going on. And that's really difficult, because I've been on the end of lots of that. So I haven't had my disability all my life, but dealing with other people around my disability has been the hardest thing, I would say, without fail. Yeah. And
That's
I think, sorry?
I was going to say that's actually a really common experience. What a lot of people, disabled people, say, particularly people with brain injury, because it is sort of more people. Yeah, it's other people, other non-disabled people not believing you or making judgments or just finding you too weird and then ostracizing you a bit.
Ostracism is the I don't know if that is a word, but I tell you what, that's exactly what it's like. Yeah. You're just like, why are these people not talking to me? What's going on? You know?
Yeah. And I don't understand that, because I actually, disclosure, I do know you. And but yeah, I don't get that either, because why? Because you're just Billy who has a brain injury.
Yeah. It's easier. I was talking to a friend of ours, Jeremy, about this. And it's like I've done this screaming like this pace of light education program in the last 2 years, when I've actually embraced the disability community. Like I've always, and when I realised my position in life, and I just kept doing what I was doing, because no one dares say to me, "Oh, you can't do that." Everyone's sort of like, well, people who know me know what I'm like, and it's like, don't tell Billy she can't do that, because she'll be doing it when you're still saying she can't do it. So that's part of the process is dealing with other people's grief, if you like. Yeah. So you've got your grief about, oh gee, you know, my physicality isn't great. I walk and everyone goes, oh yeah, you know, it's not noticeable, but you ask me to go upstairs or walk on sand or something like that, mate, I'm hopeless. You know,
is that a proprioception sort of issue? Yeah,
balance, the whole thing. Yeah. So, you know, you learn how to manage these things, you know, and you know, I mean, I'm sure I've said more than once, take a picture, it lasts longer. You know, people staring at you, but
sorry, I have missed that. I've never heard you say that. What do you mean by take?
No, I say that to like, you know, people you'll be walking along, or you know, struggling to do something, and someone just stares at you, like they get caught in the stare. They don't mean it. They just get caught in it, and you're like, oh, take a picture, it lasts longer. Stop staring at me. You know, that's another way of saying that, I suppose.
I'm going to use that one next time I'm being stared at, which is usually not a disability setting, but anyway, at the pool, when they stare at you.
yeah, right. I don't think if people actually realise they're staring, I think they get locked into seeing the uncommon, because disability is fairly hidden, I think, in society still. No, you go over into that group, because you'll be better off there. You know, and the problem with, or not the problem with, because I could go on forever about that, but one of the issues with brain injury, as I said, is it's an unseen thing, and you're not offered the graces of someone who would be walking along on crutches or in a wheelchair. You know, and I'm not saying that a person with a brain injury is any more disabled or non-disabled than whatever other disability. I think we've got to learn to live together first. we all complain about, access and quite rightly, but access and fairness and equity for all abilities. But we sort of give each other a pretty hard time, I reckon.
You mean disabled people give each other a hard time?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And I reckon it's okay. We can just take the foot off the neck of each other. We don't have to give each other a hard time. We could give each other a hand, which people do as well. But we're so indoctrined into this abled society that any sign of something outside of that is not something different, as something wrong.
Yeah. And I think that, as disabled people, particularly people with brain injury, we're also highly trained by ableist society to hide our own impairments and to make them invisible. So I'm not blaming us for doing that. I'm just saying we're trained to do that. We've been brainwashed to do that, and it's really hard to break. There's many layers of this invisibility, I guess.
Yeah, I don't agree with it all. I think that's exactly what it is.
So when did you start to sort of come out, I guess?
Come out. When I was living up on the south coast of New South Wales and doing a local TAFE course on ceramics, and the woman who was the head lecturer there, she said, "You should go to university one day." And I went, "Oh, okay. Which university do you think I should go to?" And she was from Sydney, and she'd been to East Sydney Tech and done all the famous pathways, that you can only really see in retrospect. And she said, "Oh, ANU." Okay. So I went across to ANU, and they had their open day. So I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. So the first thing I did was I booked a room. So I got myself sorted out, went down to the art school and had a bit of a look around there because I'd never been there before. And then I read up about the disability services, because I thought if I'm going to have to play the card any time, it's going to have to be now. Now, I'm not saying I knew what I needed, because I certainly didn't, but I knew what I could access was probably more important. And again, it's like I'm the one with the disability teaching these able people what they need to do. You can say I get migraines, and they can sort of associate with migraines because, they're not super common, but people get them. So they, if someone has that disability, then they can associate with it. But when you come along with a bucket of disabilities, they are, no, you're a sook. You're just a sook. And that's what happened.
So what happened at ANU?
That's what happened. That's what happened with in the faculty in the department I was in the sculpture department. Yeah. Got it was.
When was this? When was this that you?
2010. I started there. I was there for 4 years. So, and I'm the sort of person who likes to deal with things front on. I don't like sneaky stuff. I just like to, I don't mind a plan, but but my version of front on and open and transparent was their version of go away, you're annoying me, you're making me feel guilty. I don't know, whatever, add your emotion into that. That's what happened there, And I guess I can go back and tell you, I can list all the things that were really, really terrible that shouldn't happen to a human being. I've got a pretty good good list of that, like that. But what it's done is it's actually made me know what I don't want, which is just as vital as knowing what you do want.
Yeah.
So because I'm a bit slow on the uptake sometimes. So when something confronts you and someone's not being very nice, or the moment is difficult for you, you know, having to learn to say, oh, I've just got to step out for a moment. I mean, that, like 3 years ago, that was impossible for me to do, but now I kind of get it. So it's okay to do that. But it's like no one gives me that permission to go about things as I wish, which I can do now. But I didn't have that before. I didn't know that I had that before. So, yeah, I guess I've talked about 15 different things there, but okay.
So, so when you got to ANU, which is about 9 years after your injury, which is actually a really interesting time. Often people tell that story. It takes around 7-8 years after a break.
Right.
You know, to sort of get a bit of clarity and also to be able to work out how to manage your mind and your body, to be able to undertake some study or something. I mean, some people go in much earlier, but for me and you, it was around that time.
Well, I'd never studied before, so I had no idea what I was in for. I was a bit dumb, if you like. I'm going, oh yeah, okay, off I go. You know, waddle off to the university.
Probably the best way to be.
Oh yeah, look, if you had to tell me, even when I was in America, if you had to tell me before I went to university at all what it would be like, I would go, what am I supposed to gain out of that? You know, and I would say what I've gained out of it is what I don't want. Besides the art,
you stuck with it. So is that part of your personality, to stick with things?
Oh, what an idiot!
I'm the same.
No, I stuck with it because I knew that there was some good juice in it. You know, like I knew that there was things that I was going to benefit from. The only things that I didn't benefit, the thing that made it difficult, I should say, is other people's perceptions of me and their treatment of me.
Yeah.
And, you know, how do you can't sit down and have a conversation with these people. You know, I think what's happening on it, you know, blah, 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 you know, someone like giving me a lower mark than I should have got, and give me exactly enough points so that even though they were going to get called back in to give me a higher mark because it was wrong, they wouldn't have to give me the mark that would go to the next bracket and put me in the top list of students. So I was just below that. So it's not me keeping myself out of things. It's, you know, other people. I mean, I am my own worst enemy sometimes. Guess we all are. But, oh, mate, I tell you.
So I want to introduce another intersectional part of yourself, because I do know that you identify as queer too. Do you think that was part of some of the reactions that people?
My word.
Yeah.
I don't act how people expect me to act. And how is that? Who knows how that is? But yeah, exactly. Who knows?
And it's so silly. I don't know. Sorry, it's just this point. It's like, why are we so obsessed with that people have to act in certain ways, as long as they're not being disrespectful or harmful or rude, abusive, whatever? Like, why can't we act how we want to act? Why do we have to perform to a gender stereotype or a particular stereotype? Yeah.
People become so fractured when, like, I don't think I was doing anything particularly differently. I think I was just being read differently. And so that's what made things harder for me. But I can't be anything. I'm not very good at acting. I can't be anything but my honest self. So, and lots of people act, like we all act to a degree, but, you know, when you're dealing with something that other people are dealing with at the same time, it's much easier to do it as a community than it is to do as an individual. You know, it has its moments, but yeah. And I think that's where support comes from. But yeah.
So going back now to my question around disability identification and community. So when you went to uni at ANU, you were like, well, I have to identify as disabled because I need to do that so I can survive and get through. Did you, at what point did you connect with other disabled people?
Okay, so there's a story there. One of my cohort in the same class as me, she was in sculpture as well. She identified quite proudly as disabled and clearly as disabled. Don't think there was anyone else. And that was my teenage years as a disabled person, shall we say. So it's like that, oh, I don't like that word, don't say that word. And, now and then my friend would start with something like, us Crips have got to be, oh, don't say that, that's a terrible word, So like having all the anti-schisms to really something I should be embracing, But it's like teenagers do, oh, I hate you, I love you, I hate you, I love you, It was, I guess that's really what it was about.
And also the attitudes that we've grown up with.
As far as disability centre went, they were really good in some respects, but in other respects, like I felt like I was being patted on the head sometimes.
Can I tell you my story when I went to uni and I went to the disability liaison unit to register as disabled? And I don't think I used that language then. I was sort of still coming out, I guess, because we're always coming out, really. But I went in and I listed my I have a brain injury and I have chronic pain and I have a mental illness. And they were like, oh, we won't put mental illness down because, you'll get treated differently. And I was like, I know that's true. But I was like, hang on a sec, you're not supposed to say that. Like, this is my child, open and honest. And then I said, well, actually, my mental illness is probably going to be the bits I'm going to have the greatest challenges with in this university environment. So it's there. But they wouldn't, because they thought they were protecting me by not putting it there, which is really ableist.
Which is setting us back yet again.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in the States, their system is different. Obviously, there are lots of different systems, but as far as the disability unit goes, it was like if you didn't know about something, they weren't about to tell you, and it wasn't that they were keeping it secret. It's just their manner, So they would, they would go through I can't remember exactly what they were, but they'd go through things you'd need, and like ANU that you used to be able to get scooters to get round on, because so many of the kids that go to uni come back after the middle of the year with broken legs from snow skiing. So they got an army of these scooters. But when I went to get one from when I was in the States, they just went, oh, no, we don't have them. There was no, this is where you can go. There was no, oh, speak to so-and-so. There was no, here's the link through that,
So you would say your experience in Australia, it's problematic, but they actually have a disability unit, whereas in American university there wasn't?
No, they had a unit, but it was just run differently.
Yeah.
And they weren't so patronising in the States. There was a lot of patronising in the Australian one, but the one in the States, there was like, we will help you if you tell us what you need, but we won't tell you what you need if we don't know you need it. And that's always the problem with the brain injury is, oh, okay.
Yep.
There's those moments when you're traveling along in life and then you go, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't know that. You just find something out and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh. I had one of those last week about my brain injury. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I've just realised this and how helpful it's going to be now I've realised.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. But I also think that if I didn't have a brain injury, would that have ever occurred to me? because it's a feature of humanity. It's not like necessarily particular to me, you know.
True. I guess, yeah, maybe. I mean, part of the brain injury is that we do sometimes have difficulty remembering or thinking through a problem, or and being able to come back to it over and over again. There are some sort of issues there, but a lot of it might be that you might be right. It's a human thing, but for us, we have specific needs that are different to other people, and so we've just not used. It's hard to think them up because other people around us don't. And sometimes when we start meeting other people with brain injury, that can really help us. So my next question is, do you think, when did you find the ABI community, or do you think there is an ABI community?
Oh, look, people with an ABI, sometimes people with an ABI give me the shits. It's just, but it's not anyone's fault. It's just, not. It's like and the injuries, like there's just, you know, it's not even a plethora. It's like there's just so many different ways you can be injured and so many different reactions you can have to that. And do I think that someone's previous life is indicative of the way they're going to react afterwards? No, not always. No, maybe sometimes. Yeah. I mean, I remember lying in the hospital and the nurses going, "Are you from the country?" And I thought, what a strange question, you know. No, but I like the country, you know. But it was because they have a unit in the hospital where people with initially with brain injury go to the unit first until their brain sort of calms down a bit, because they're just like, they can be erratic and violent and all those sort of things. And then as they slowly get a handle on things, they get moved back into general pop and all that sort of thing. Sounds a bit like a prison, really. I guess it is. Yeah, so I didn't have to do that. They just sent me straight to the hospital ward.
Because you were placid and happy and not displaying.
Yeah, but apparently that's not done. It's just not done. It's like, oh no, put them in there and see how they go for a couple of weeks before we let them loose on the world. So
I think what I got from that is that you're from the country.
No, but I'm not. That's the irony of it. I'm from downtown Essendon. That's where I grew up, born and bred. But I did live in the country for 20 years, but not at that stage that I lived in the country.
How odd.
But it was just it's just the type of person I am. I just, you know.
You're straight talking, you say what you think, there's no beating around the bush, and you're practical. And I suppose those are all sort of judgments we make about people. Oh, you must be from the country, which I mean, but I can see why they said that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
going back to your comment about people with brain injury being not your favourite people, I have to also say that some of your best friends are people with brain injury.
I know.
So
some of, that's why I use some.
Yeah. So just for our audience who might be going, oh, they're all terrible people. No, it's
no, definitely don't mean that. No.
I think that we can't put everyone in the same box.
No, of course not. No.
We are well, everyone is a part of humanity.
Yeah.
Within that spectrum, we all have, like, you know, we all have the same emotions, personality. We have different personality traits. So yeah, we can't there. So yeah.
So going back to I know I'm going on about this a bit, but the brain injury community, the so-called brain injury community, which I've been thinking about recently, and I'm always, for 24 years I have been struggled with
You had a while to think about it.
Yeah, and it's gone up and down because, you know, maybe I'll find a posse of people with brain injury and I feel like I belong, and you know, we're very spread out, I feel, and there's like, I suppose any community, there's issues, and you've got to find your place. Some of them can be homophobic. They might be ABI friendly, but they're not friendly to queer people. So then you have to find another community. But do you think, did you explore connecting with the ABI community when you're in the States? And did you find a place there?
No, I didn't connect with one when I was over there. I connected with the Australian one, the Melbourne one, while I was over there, because I knew at that stage that I was coming back to Melbourne to live, and I thought, oh well, I better sort myself out for the soft landing. Of course, COVID happened; that didn't help. But anyway, yeah, I thought I would do that, and got onto the Zoom sessions at some ungodly hour for Melbourne, so I could sit on in these sessions. And yeah, at that stage, everyone was doing Zoom, so yeah, just sort of learning about a few people down there. But I guess it's no different to being into a type of sport, or a certain type of movies. It's like everyone sort of has their preferences, and I think if everyone stopped judging everyone for their preferences, stopped giving them a hard time about their preferences, it may be a bit easier for everyone. And when I say everyone, I'm talking as part of the brain injury community. But to say that, and I wouldn't say I'm not. I make myself available if people want to talk, and I find that there's a connection about something. Then sure, we can do that. I've done a lot of talking about things that I'm sick of talking about. But they're not personal things. They're not things about managing how to get around and get on with an ABI. Because people say, oh, you shouldn't get around one. You should just learn to live with it. Yeah, of course you should learn to live with it. But I also think that, there's different strategies to remembering things, say, or not. My memory is terrible at the moment, and it never used to be so terrible. And I go, oh, menopause, that'll do. I'll blame that. But
from experience, it does.
when it comes back, it's very welcome. Yes, I'll have to start on the crosswords again. Crosswords are really good for getting your words back.
Oh gosh, yes, I can't believe nobody told me that, and that I
know. No, right.
And it was 4 years post my brain injury when I finally was like, oh my God, crosswords can help me because of all the word finding issue I was having. And crosswords taught me just find another word. And I just increased my vocab, and it was mind blowing the difference that doing crosswords made to my life.
Yeah. So I think like within the brain injury community, there's all different types of people, and there's people that you'll connect with, and there's people that you won't. And that's okay. I have a small number of friends with a brain injury. I don't want to exclude anyone or include anyone. I like that it's organic. It's not forced. I feel that sometimes when you're in, or going to the brain injury group, that everyone's getting funneled into this one way of thinking about it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with thinking about the same thing a couple of different ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Spoken like a trained true artist.
Yeah, I suppose I just, art's given me a lot of things. And when I was in the States, they just slammed you. It wasn't like going to uni in Australia where it was like, oh, have your essay in by the end of the week and do these 2 readings and just, we'll talk about them then. You'd start off with 1 reading a week. This is for 1 subject and you're doing 4. And then, you up to 6, 7, 8 readings plus your essay, plus, and plus, And
wow. big workload compared
Oh,
to
massive workload. And you're like, how am I going to possibly take any of this information on? And now I feel it emerging. When I look at something, I go, okay. Yeah, I do have an opinion about that. Yeah, sure. Or no, I don't have an opinion. Like, I can say that, and it's not because I feel qualified, because, hey, who's qualified? But I can see things and go, yeah, right. I probably would have done that differently,
So, why did you go to the States to study?
Because, like my professor said when I was doing ceramics and I went to ANU, that in my fourth year at ANU, I was doing honours, we had an artist in residence from America. And I was forever in the workshop, and of course it was holidays at some point there as well. So he and I got to know each other pretty well, and do this, don't do this, go here, go there, all those local tips. And when he was leaving, he goes, you should go to America. And I thought to myself, well, I don't actually know what that means, but I better do it. So, but I'm going to go and have a look first, because 3 years is a long time to spend somewhere if you don't like it. And so I did. I got on a plane and flew across there, and had organised, did some reading research, and found a university that was a couple of universities that were, seemed like good art programs. Like you can go the Rhode Island School of Art and Design and Chicago Institute. They're like, like the number one. But there's nothing wrong with the beaten track, I can tell you right now. So it turns out I found that the university I went to was probably one of the most accessible places as far as universities go in America.
What do you mean by accessible?
Accessibility as in like ramps to all the buildings, buttons to push, so you didn't have to pull the doors open. You just push the button, door it open. Hearing loops, different coloured places on the footpath when you were changing from just a footpath to a crossover. There was just everything. And then I could have got all sorts of help as far as disability services go if I had different disabilities. So as much as Australia thinks they're pretty good at it, I reckon, they were a fine example of that. And that's what drew me to that course. Yeah, it was a really nice, big, flat building, like as in you didn't have to go up and down steps anywhere. Yeah, much, much more accessible for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to move us along, because I know that we want to get to the main part of the exciting bit of your current story, which is the North Preston Lifesaving Club.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, what is that and how did it happen?
All right, I'm going to do those two questions in reverse.
Great.
So when I got back from America, I thought, I'm going to find myself a studio somewhere. And in the year and a half, I traveled all around the north side. I'd done some fairly good, decent research about which councils, so which areas were who best looked after their arts. So Broadmeadows, Hume Council, I think it's called. They're just starting to get in a bit of an idea, but I found Marybeck and Darebin councils essentially were the two best councils in Victoria. And I'm not saying that other councils are all terrible. I'm just saying that those two were the best ones I found. So I figured that's the areas. They're the areas I need to look in. So then I started looking at studios. And the problem with most studios is they're reappropriated spaces. So they had heavy industrial machinery in them, and to fit in a certain amount of studios, they've had to make the corridors a bit narrower and things like that. So there's issues that that I don't have, but I could see would be issues for someone else. And then, of course, there was issues like, big industrial machines being taken out, ripped out, but then leaving like these holes in the floor, not big holes, just like little puddle sort of size holes. And I am the first person who's going to find them, and I'm going to find them with my foot, and I'm going to end up on my head, and we're going to be back to where we started from. So I don't need to be avoiding those things while I'm trying to avoid so many other things at the same time. So a bit of microaggressions of homophobia at one of the studios, but 12 studios I looked at in total, and not one of them was accessible. A lot of them had studios upstairs. Well, I can't do stairs very well. And again, it doesn't really make it accessible for anyone when you can't get up their stairs to your studio. So I'm like, right. Well, while I was doing this survey of sites, I got onto the real estate apps and looked at what they had. So I ended up having a very good idea of what was available, what could be made into a workshop, studio, that sort of thing. And eventually a friend of ours, Larissa and mine's, Jeremy, he moved back down from Brisbane. And it was a bit like a kismet moment. Like it was all just meant to happen, And I said, well, this is, we'd already spoken in October at Meeting Place, which is a disability conference that was held in Melbourne last year. It's held nationally each year. And we had a chat, and he was like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do. This is what I've been thinking about and talking about for ages. I'm like, good, okay. So then I realized that just going into a studio, although I was still sort of hanging on to that by a thread, someone else's studio wasn't going to be what we wanted. So I thought, why don't we just start our own? Because then we don't have to answer to anyone. We don't have to make sure everything is like how someone else wants it. We can make sure it's how we want it, and that it's accessible, and that it's accommodating, and it's a community minded, and it's aspiring as opposed to placating. So there's lots of things that the studio is about that I haven't named, and it's like I have to be prompted with some of them, because I'm just like, I try and think about them as it's ongoing, and it's a friendly, kind place where people can come to, and even if they just want to have a cuppa, that's fine, but then they can come in and have a chat, or not have a chat and just sit there. I don't mind, sometimes that's what I need to do too,
It's so weird that oh, congratulations, by the way. I'll come back to you, but it is very weird that that the contemporary art scene in Melbourne, we're supposedly the cultural capital of Australia, and we have this strong contemporary art scene, that it is so exclusive, and has so many attitudes around what's the right sort of art, and who are the right sort of people to be making it, and it is shifting, definitely. But for a long time, disability art and disabled artists, I suppose they're different things, but we won't get into that. But yeah, they're very much seen as outside, to the point that they're called outsider artists, outsider art, but it's seen as outside. And community art is seen as outside contemporary art. And so I'm not surprised that you've taken this route, but it's also amazing because there are actually very, very few. In fact, I can only think of one other in the whole of Australia, another disability-led visual arts collective. And so you are groundbreaking.
Well, I just went, that's what we need to do. Let's do it. We could do it. We were able. But we're also doing it with And it's a crip-led process. Like, I've embraced that word finally. It only took me 22 years. But it's a crip-led space. It's where art, like I understand what you're saying about the art hierarchy in Melbourne. So I don't care. I don't care, because I can get, like a lot of outside artists in a sense, we can make our art and show it and do what we do, and we don't have to answer to anyone. Oh, and you've got this coming up in 2 weeks' time. We're on crib time. We just get what we can done when we can do it, and everyone. That's just the way it is, and it's okay. So it's like stripping back all the expectations. I have my own expectations of myself, as does Jeremy, and we just work with that. And very rarely does anyone here know in the workshop. It's always, oh, hang on, let me think about it. How can we do that? But there's also, just like humanity itself, there's a big difference between what's art in an able world and what's art in a disabled world. And so the lens that we have from the able world onto us is that we need to be able to fit the artwork into our context. And like Indigenous art that's been othered and is still othered because the art world can't cope with something that is so, post-impressionistic, yet doesn't have that label because it can't have that label. Like, it just blows people's minds. It's still blowing people's minds, and so it should. Taking something from a cave wall or written in sand and putting it on a piece of canvas, that just blows my mind. Yeah.
So where is the North Preston Lifesaving Club?
It is downtown 677 High Street in Preston. We use North Preston so you've got an idea of which end of the high street it's on. Yeah.
And it's important to note that it's close to a local train station, Regent.
Yeah, 2 of them, but it's closer to Regent. It's about 300 metres from the station, maybe. Yeah, and there's buses that run down the high street as well.
Because obviously that was important in finding a space, finding a place that was accessible by public transport.
Yeah. There was a couple of boxes that needed to tick, and those boxes included ones we've solved ourselves by putting our own ramps in there because there's stairs, and things like public transport and council, things like, they're all part of that the box of things we need to be accessible.
So are you looking for people to get involved, and how?
Absolutely everything from, if you just want to come in and have a cuppa, to you're interested in having an art a studio in the space. We've still got a couple of studios there that haven't been let yet. We're going to have a full workshop at the back. Basically, I've designed it around what I would want if I was going to find what I needed, the perfect thing for what I needed, because I figure that what I want is going to suit someone else somewhere, and even if it's close. And so there'll be welding and timber work, and there'll be people will be able to come and learn how to do those things, so we make sure everything's done safely, and most importantly though, it's a community and a supportive environment, so that when people come in, there's no othering. It's like, if you come in that front door, then you've already described yourself. You don't need to justify or continually say, oh, but if only, it doesn't matter. And I think that that's something that's been sorely lacking as well.
So if people want to come and visit you, how's the best way to go about that?
Well, we're usually there from 12 till 6, Monday to Friday. We have a Facebook page, so people can contact us through the Facebook page or join up as well. And they can come in and have a look. They can have a chat to us online or by phone, or they can come in person. We're up the right end of Preston. It's there's not as many shops. There's a couple of cafes. There's a couple of. It's a nice area in the sense of community from the other shopkeepers, so that's helped us as well. So we just keep working on our relationships with those around us. Just down the road is a place called the Pony Club Gym, which is a queer-run gymnasium where they also do classes for, anyone can do the classes, but for able-bodied. But they also have special training for one-on-ones and other classes for people with different abilities. Yeah. So I've just been sort of going around introducing myself, and I only know that because I went down and found out.
Yeah.
I said, oh, what do you do here? Oh, yeah, have you ever thought about doing that? Oh, yeah, we do this. Yeah, okay, no worries. All right, well, let's go. We're on. So,
So I know that Disability Pride Month is coming up sooner than we know. July Disability Pride Month. Have you got any events organised, or are you thinking about doing anything for Disability Pride Month? And can I be involved? And could I run a little badge making workshop for Disability Pride Month?
Yeah, I reckon that's a great idea. Yeah, I reckon you can have a badge booth, and Larissa's badge booth.
That's right.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what we need is those. See, there's things that I know about all the time. Like, it's like people say to me, how do you know that? And they go, well, because that's my job to know that. And Larissa, I guess that's your job. You're going, this is coming up and we're going to do, what are you going to do? And I'm like, all right, I didn't know that. For some reason, I thought it was later in the year. I think because of the 1st of December.
3rd,
is it? Yeah. I'd see. I've got World AIDS Day down. I just didn't have. I knew it was close to that.
And look, most of us, I'm afraid, a lot of disabled people are quite jaded by International Day of People with Disability on December the 3rd, because it's really not our day. It seems to be a day for providers and governments to, say how good they are. So personally, I'm claiming Disability Pride Month at my festival. And it goes for a month. It's in July because the Americans Disability Act was signed in 1992 on the 26th of July, I think. Yeah. And so ever since then, that's why July has been Disability Pride Month. Yeah. But it's only recently come to Australia in the last couple of years. So pretty much no one knows about it yet.
Oh, let's just pinch it and we'll put something on, and then everyone else can just come along for the ride.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm a fan of that. Yeah, we've got Larissa's badge booth, we've got the galleries, we've got workshops, people learning. Yes, very important. Yeah.
So I know that we're probably coming up for time soon, and there's lots of things that we didn't discuss, but is there anything that you, in these final minutes, that you would like to share with us about you? Anything? Something you were burning to talk about, something more about the North Preston Life Saving Club, anything?
I guess I'm actually at the point of a bit of reflection at the moment. Like, we're sort of 6 weeks into the 6 weeks in, maybe 10 weeks into the studio now, and we're sort of we've had our first exhibition. We are planning lots of things. We've put in for grants. So our focus has been quite like, oh, hang on, everybody, we're going for a ride, And so the last sort of week has been all right, okay, what can I do there? Oh, yeah, I can do that better. Oh, let's do that as well. Oh, like, so it's just about sort of reflecting, yeah, about and on what we've done and um, what's coming. Right, Jeremy, let's do another exhibition.
I guess that sounds like you're thinking more about how Crypt Time can operate and benefit you and the studio
Yes,
space.
absolutely. Yeah. Both Jeremy and I, we got the first exhibition up and we were both buggered for a week.
Yep,
Like,
I agree. So was I.
yeah. And it was just but it's not just a case of feeling tired because you've done lots of things. I think what the most exhausting part was dealing with everybody on the opening night. I may not appear it, but I like my not talking to anyone time. I like that quiet time.
That is weird coming from somebody who talks a lot.
I know, but I feel like I'm comfortable. I'm talking about things I know about, and they're not things I have to consider. Well, there are things I have to consider, but I'm not.
Yeah, the small chat that you do around.
Yeah,
people.
I am shocking at that. Yeah. I do it because I've got to do it. But Jeremy was trying to hide himself down on a chair down one end of the building, and I'm trying to hide myself up the back of the building. And they still found us.
On that note, we probably should wind up. It's just for people who want to find out more about the studio, they can look you up on Facebook. Yep. Or drop in 12 to 5 Monday to Friday. Yep. At 677 High Street in North Preston. Yep. And they could also contact the YouTube us here at Your Life, Your Voice, and we can put you in touch with with Billy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming and chatting with us.
No worries.
Thank you, Billy. It was a pleasure meeting you and speaking and hearing about your story.
Maybe you'll get a word in next time.
Possibly, but I'm happy to support and be the person that doesn't speak a lot sometimes. Yeah, I tend to speak a lot too, Billy. So having Larissa on board, it's been really, really great for me to practice my listening skills.
Okay.
So thank you, everyone, and we'll say goodbye for now.
Okay.
Bye.
Catch us on Your Life, Your Voice YouTube channel live every Monday fortnight or on demand.
We would like your comments and suggestions on topics that you would like us to explore. Leave your comments on YouTube comments section.
Please feel free to email us on dndyourlifeyourvoice@gmail.com or contact us via the Migrant Resource Centre Northwest Region Inc. Phone number 1300 676 044. 1300 676 044.
Diversity and Disability is a project of the Migrant Resource Centre Northwest Region Incorporated, and would like to thank the management for funding this project, especially living through the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic has been difficult for people with disabilities living in isolation.